gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. All right, CFL week number 4. Whew, what a week 3. 10-2 overall for week 3. 3-1 on the straight up picks, 3-1 against the spread, and 4-0 on the over/under. For the last 2 weeks, 17-4. Year to date, we're at 19-11. 5-5 on straight up picks, 5-5 against the spread, and 9-1 on the over/under. That's a 63.8%. The goal is 60. I'm happy if I get 500. Yeah, the goal is 60. But yeah, the last 2 weeks have been absolutely amazing on these picks. So glad to get that. Kind of get that above that 60% after that week 1 was just horrendous. But you know what? This week can go to the toilet as well. So let's not get too high on that. We're going to take a look at these 4 games starting tonight with the 2-0 Edmonton Elks taking on the 1-1 Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Edmonton, they are 6th in offense with 402, 1st in defense at 389.5 yards per game. They're scoring on an average of 30.5 points. They have won both games so far, and they've scored 29 and 32 points on each of those games. Yeah, they gave up a lot in 29 and 21. Standout star so far has been Justin Rankin, receiving 10 for 145, rushing 31 for 281, and 3 touchdowns. That is part of why they are 2-0 on the season. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they're 1-1. They are 5th in yards, on offensive yards at 410. They're 6th in defensive yards at 422. With Brady Oliveira looking for his 5th straight 1,000-yard season, he is up to 23 for 145 so far after just 2 games. Obviously, they are only 1-1. He's got 1 touchdown. The better he plays, the better they do. That's any team here. Now, I don't know about that. The line actually has Winnipeg at home minus 3.5. I've looked at a bunch of different stats on this one before I decided what I wanted to do. I like the way Edmonton's playing. Justin Rankin is, obviously leading 2 different categories. One of the best in the CFL this year so far. I got to go with Edmonton. I got to go with the hot hand here. I got Edmonton plus 3.5 over on the 55.5. Next up, we have the 1-1 Toronto Argonauts taking on the 2-0 Saskatchewan Roughriders. Number 1 in yards per game, 517.5 for Toronto. 3rd in defense at 400 average yards per game given up. Saskatchewan is 2nd in offensive yards at 471.5. They are 2nd in defense at 397.5. They are scoring 35.5 points a game on average, giving up 32. Getting 2 big wins so far. I know Toronto won big last week, 44-24. They are scoring 32 points a game while giving up 30.5. So both these teams are scoring in the mid to high 30s, but giving up in the low 30s. Kevin Mattel for Toronto, 15 for 287 and a touchdown. He is on just amazing so far this year. While Ken Schaefer-Baker there for Saskatchewan, not bad, 19 for 245 and 2 touchdowns. So you got star players on both sides here. The line in this one's Saskatchewan minus 3.5. So I'm actually taking the Rough Riders here because I think because of that defense, they're just a little bit better. Yeah, even though their offense is a little bit less, I think the combination of those 2 will actually help Saskatchewan get a victory here. So I got Saskatchewan minus 3.5 and over on the 57.5. Next up, we got the battle of the 0-2 teams. We got the 0-2 Calgary Stampeders taking on the 0-2 BC Lions. Neither team is having a great year so far. The Stampeders are giving up 35 points a game average on defense. BC's giving up 36 points a game average on defense. Calgary is the 7th in offensive yards. They've given up 4th most in defensive yards, while the Lions are 4th in offensive yards and 5th in defensive yards. both over 400 per game, 400 yards per game. Now, I know the Stampeders having Derek Mills running for 215 out of 2 games. That's 100, averaging 100 yards a game. I think they would have done better. Obviously offense is struggling there, getting across that threshold there to beat the defense has been so bad the offense can't really kind of get on track there. I lost my train of thought there. BC on the other hand, Justin McGinnis 13 for 210. Okay, great, not too bad. For an 0-2 team that the defense has let them down, not horrible. BC is actually favored by 1.5 here. My thought process would be because BC is getting more yards per game, their defenses are pretty equal. I'm going to go with BC here. The line is BC minus 1.5, so I got BC covering the 1.5 and over on the 57.5. And then the final game, we have the 0-2 Ottawa Red Blacks taking on the 2-1 Montreal Alouettes. 9th in offensive yards, 9th in defense. Unfortunately, the Ottawa Red Blacks are just not playing great football. Losing 29-21 and then getting smoked 44-24. David Attaboy only rushing for 13 for 88 with 1 touchdown. You gotta run the ball. You gotta control the clock. You gotta get yardage. You gotta get points in order to, and only scoring 22.5 points per game. Montreal, on the other hand, 3rd in offensive yards at 457.7. 7th in defense, so they are one of the worst defense out there with total yards at 423. Winning the first 2 games and losing the last game. Tyson Philpott 24 for 389 and 3 touchdowns. After 3 games, that is not bad whatsoever. Having a great year so far. I think it's on a pace to be a career year for him. Montreal is favored by 8.5. That is a big, big, big points number. But you know what? Unfortunately, Ottawa is not playing up to par yet. I think they can still turn it around, hopefully. So Montreal covering the 8.5. Once again, I'm going over 55.5. I do believe last week on the over-under we went 4-0. I went over on all of them as well. Week 3 I was 3-0, and I went over on all of them as well. So the last 2 weeks, 7-0 in the over-under, and I've gone over on all of them. I know that's going to come to an end soon because eventually defense will actually do something. So to recap, Edmonton plus 3.5 over on the 55.5. Saskatchewan minus 3.5 over on the 57.5. BC minus 1.5 over on the 57.5. And then Montreal minus 8.5 and over on the 55.5. All right, that is week 4 of the CFL. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show. Don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader, sports content.